Hey everyone, welcome back to Brand New Vegan. This is Chuck. I got a special guest today, and he's got some exciting news he wants to share with you. So we are joined today by my friend Dan Chong. He's a doctor, a naturopath here in Portland, and I'll turn it over to him, and he can tell us about himself and what he's doing and what this special project of his is. So Dan, take it away.
Hey Chuck, thanks for having me. Uh, yeah, appreciate you having me on, and certainly you didn't even give any info about your involvement. You're with me here on this program that I'm created. Basically, I have been practicing for 25 years, and the last half of them or so, I've been focused almost exclusively on cardiovascular disease and helping people prevent heart attacks and strokes. And I guess you could say over the last few years, especially, what I've noticed in a lot of the patients that I talk to, and I spend a lot of time online discussing things with people, it's almost like I've noticed a growing level of confusion occurring out there in the world amongst people who are literally they just want the correct answers. They want information that's going to be useful for them. Some people have very serious conditions going on. Some people have had family members that have died of cardiovascular disease, and they just don't want anything like that to happen to them. So they're just out there trying to find information. And yet, as anybody who spends any time on social media or YouTube or whatever trying to find information about their health has probably discovered, there's a lot of different opinions out there, and they can be literally on the opposite ends of the spectrum when we're talking about this is the cause, no, this is the cause over here, or this is the way you're supposed to eat, no, this is the way you're supposed to eat, so on and so
Right.
forth. Take this drug, drugs are bad, blah, 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 all of these different things. And it's just gotten to the point where literally, I would say probably 50% of the people that reach out to me initially to work with me come in very confused and very like, I don't know what to believe anymore. I read this, I read that. So that is, I think, what motivated me the most to create a program that I feel is as comprehensive as I can make it, kind of like everything I want somebody to know to
Hmm.
be able to sort of reclaim their health and know that they're doing the best for themselves based on the best research, based on my clinical experience and seeing what works and what doesn't. Um, and so that's been my goal. I've created this program. It's an online 6-week program that incorporates some recorded videos, some live sessions each week that the participants get access to, a lot of different pieces of information and everything like that. And as I don't need to convince you, when you are trying to be as healthy as you can be, food is the foundation. And so a big emphasis on the program is teaching people how to eat for cardiovascular disease prevention, cardiovascular disease treatment, um, and and yet, so that's why I reached out to you to see if you were interested in working with me on that part of it, because as I know you know, eating healthy is one question. Eating healthy and making it taste good and be enjoyable and familiar is another question.
Absolutely.
And you're the expert, in my opinion, on that whole side of things. So you were gracious enough to offer up your experience and everything like that to sort of help teach people the practical implementation side of things. So very excited about that. And then that being said, that's just one part of it. I'm going to be talking about how cardiovascular disease happens, which I think is very important for people to understand it. I'm going to be talking about um, different ways to support and sort of complement the efforts that a person makes with their diet and other aspects of their lifestyle habits, daily habits, etc. And then certainly some people have really serious situations going on, and sometimes they need additional tools to complement their efforts with their diet and lifestyle activities. And that's another area of serious confusion out there in terms of like, do I take medications? What if supplements are good enough? And if the supplements are good, which are the ones that we want to focus on, so on and so forth. So I have entire sections on that whole topic, how to what I call how to optimize the efforts that people are making. And then lastly, for the last part of it, I do talk a lot about I always tell my patients, if you're making a strong effort, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever combination of factors you put into play in your life, it's correct me if I'm wrong, you want to know that it's working, as if at all possible. And so, unfortunately, in the conventional medical system, there's very little emphasis on sort of like following up and seeing if the treatments that are being recommended are actually having the intended effect.
Mhm.
And so I place a big emphasis on the idea of like reevaluating and being able to watch your response to treatment as well as possible using some lab testing, imaging studies, and how to best do that to try to help identify sort of the fruit of your effort, so to speak, and make sure that things are going in the right direction. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. We can talk about any other parts of it you want.
So what is the name of the program itself?
Well, so technically I call it the F.L.O.W method for heart
Okay.
attack and stroke prevention. And F.L.O.W is an acronym. F stands for food. L stands for lifestyle in terms of the other daily habits people can do to support the efforts that they're making with their dietary changes. O stands for optimize, which is really that section where we're learning, I'm teaching people how to utilize, again, additional tools as needed, possibly some supplements. I'm not a huge
Okay.
supplement person, but there are some ones that are important. And then a good review of medications and the entire topic and what are the different things that might be put into play with people depending on the circumstances. What are the safest? What are the most effective? That type of thing. And then W stands for watching for change. And so, in other words, that's when you implement the plan, you want to watch and see what happens in my body. How do my lab tests change? How do my imaging studies change? Are things going in the right direction? Do I need to tweak things? Do I need to add things, etc.? And so that's the basic idea of the F.L.O.W method for heart attack and stroke prevention is how I've stated it.
So in regard to food, you're emphasizing whole food, plant-based, no oil diet. Am I correct?
Right. So the diet part is again, it's like the most controversial area. It's the most sensitive area.
Mm,
It's the most just it conjures up the most emotion in people, and people
right.
argue the most about it, and there's the most misinformation about it out there on the internet. And so, unlike some of the other programs out there, what I'm not doing with this program is saying there's only one exact way, and this is it right here inside of this little circle. And if you're not inside of this little circle of dietary options, then you fail. What I'm trying to do with this program is share with people research and information on a spectrum of possibilities that a person can eat from least to most optimal.
Okay.
And it might, it goes without saying, the sicker somebody is, or the more impact they want to have on their health, and the more serious their situation is, when we're really trying to like stop the progression of plaque that's already there, or prevent a second or third or fourth heart attack from happening,
Hmm.
then we're getting really into the point where we need optimal from every angle. And so, in my opinion, absolutely the optimal end of the spectrum is a whole food, plant-based diet, no oil, etc. And I'm going to be reviewing that in depth. But at the same time, some people, as I'm sure you understand, can't or won't do that. Period.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't like the idea of people just having this all or nothing mindset where if they're not doing it exactly perfectly, then why bother at all? So I want
Right.
to give additional information on ways to modify if needed that are still going to be to some degree therapeutic, even if they're not necessarily as potent as the end of that spectrum. So that's the basic idea. A big emphasis on plant-based eating, and why, especially
Okay.
because I don't only want people joining this program who are somewhat familiar with that. I'm also trying to help people out there who just have never tried any diet before, and they're
Right.
trying to choose what way to go and what direction to go. So I want to provide a lot of the evidence that's the newest evidence out there to support why I'm recommending what I'm recommending. And so it's not just about do this because Dr. Chong says so. It's do this because, oh my goodness, why would you not? When you look at all of this evidence and that type of thing, and make it almost like an easy choice. And then again, where you come in is you make it so that people know how to do it. And so that's the idea there.
Okay. All right. And you are plant-based yourself. How long have you been vegan or plant-based?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, my when I'm talking about health and cardiovascular disease, et cetera, I don't typically use the word vegan, not because I have anything against it at all. I think it's
Right.
an amazing thing for people to try to do, but it is a philosophical approach to eating that has to do with ethics and possibly in the environment and things like that, all of which is very important. But when we're talking just purely health related things, I like, you know, plant-based, plant-centric, plant-exclusive type of terminology. It's just a pet peeve of mine.
Right.
But you know, whatever you want to call it, plant-based. I basically started eating that way. Um, I think it's been about almost 13 years now. And just a brief background about that. But prior to my moving into that way of eating, um, I spent about 10 to 11 years, 100, like almost pretty much most of the time, 100% dedicated to like what you'd call a paleo diet, which
Hmm.
is, you know, for most people, it's not a carnivore diet, which is I would consider like the polar opposite of a plant-based or vegan diet, but it's heavily animal food centric, still
Hmm.
healthy in the sense of no processed foods and things like that.
Right.
But you know, some type of animal food 3 times a day, every day. And I did not come into the interest in eating this way until I started researching cardiovascular disease more specifically. And when you're doing that from the angle of trying to understand cardiovascular disease and how to work with it while minimizing drugs and surgery, i.e., using lifestyle, diet, etc., you very quickly come across some of the research that's been done out there in the plant-based world by people like Dean Ornish, Caldwell Esselstyn, John McDougall, so on and so forth. And at the time, to me, when I saw that, I was like in disbelief. Like at that point, I thought, impossible. That's an unhealthy way to eat. There's no way that anybody could survive that way eating a vegan diet. You know, coming from the background that I had, and yet, I guess to my credit, I kept looking and kept researching and kept looking at the data and the evidence and I got to the point where I could not deny what I was seeing. And so I had to put down my preconceived notions, put down my blinders that I didn't even have realize I had up that were keeping me from, you know, acknowledging this research, and almost start from scratch. I mean, I had been literally teaching my own patients about eating a paleo diet as like the healthiest way to eat, etc. And I'll just say I had some pretty interesting conversations with some of my
I bet.
patients who were like, what are you talking about? You know, I thought I was supposed to be eating this way. So it was a bit of a transition period of time, you know. And but what I find is that most people really respond well if they understand that I'm just trying to do the best I can do and give them the most up-to-date information that I can find. So doing so, I started studying from all of these people and went and trained with Dr. Esselstyn, have been implementing his dietary approach with many of my patients in the ways that I described, and you know, doing my best. I'm far from perfect. I don't need a perfect Esselstyn diet every single day, but even though I would if I had cardiovascular disease, but just been making a pretty strong effort at things for the most part since then.
Okay. So you created this new program. It's called the Flow Method. It's 6 weeks long. When is it going to begin, and how often are you going to offer this program?
Yeah. So the plan with this initial round of the program is to start on June 25th. And the way that it works, just briefly, um, that's a Wednesday. And so every Wednesday of the 6 weeks, anybody that's in the group will have a they'll get a video link dropped into their message box. There's a whole system that people become part of, or we can message back and forth, etc. They'll get a message drop that has a link to a video that's my recorded video for the week that goes over whatever topic we're talking about within the F.L.O.W
Right.
framework. Um, and they can basically watch it they're going to be approximately 2 hours long each, maybe 90 minutes sometimes, maybe a little over 2 hours sometimes, and they can watch it whenever they want throughout the week. And then towards the end of that week, the Tuesday following, there will be a live Q&A session online through Zoom, where hopefully everybody will join in, and they'll have gathered up any questions that they have about what they've been learning, about what's going on with their health, et cetera, that we can all discuss together, with whatever, however much anybody's comfortable discussing.
Hmm.
And that will also be recorded. So if somebody can't make the live session, they can actually send me their questions ahead of time so that I can still answer them during the live session, and then they can watch the recording anytime after that.
Okay.
And that's basically the structure throughout the 6 weeks. And then your videos are going to come in during the food section, which is basically 2 weeks long. So there's two separate sets of videos that discuss food and eating, and your videos will be dropped in at that point, and then left, for anybody to watch the whole time for the rest of
Okay.
the schedule.
And I just want to mention the food that I'll be preparing in the videos are from my cookbook, and every single one of the people that participate gets a free copy of the cookbook. Am I
Yes,
right?
yes, very excited about that. Yes,
Okay, cool. And I'll make sure I put a link down below so people know where they can go if they want to sign up. Are we
great.
still accepting new people right now?
Yeah, we've got, basically, I'm trying to keep this initial group, uh, to, not too crazy. And
Right.
so we're capping it at 20. We've got about 10 spots left. This is really, like I was telling you off air here, I've been very busy lately. I just gave some lectures at a recent cardiology conference last week. So really trying to ramp up things now. We've got about 10 people signed up, so about 10 more spots left. And one other thing to mention, just from a logistical side of things, the first session that we're doing, the first 6 week session, is going to be, heavily discounted, almost 50% off from what's going to be the normal fee
Good
for it.
deal.
So hopefully that is encouraging to people. I just want people to be able to access this information. They can even split up payments, into two separate payments, et cetera, just trying to make it as accessible as possible. And then to answer your question about frequency, right now my goal is to offer it quarterly, so 4 times a year. We'll see kind of how it goes, but that's my initial plan right now.
Okay. Sounds like a great program. I can't wait to see it get started. Do you have anything else to say before we go?
Not really, I'm just like, no pun intended, but this is kind of like my heart poured out onto video with this program. It's really just going to be everything that I want somebody to learn. Most of the work that I do on a day in and day out basis with people is one-on-one, private consultations, which goes without saying. I don't typically have 12 plus hours to spend just talking people through everything I want them to learn.
Right.
And so I'm really excited about the idea of being able to share this foundational amount of information with people so that they can, uh, again, the way I look at it is I want people to be able to take back their health into their hands as much as possible and feel less like they're at the mercy of these huge decisions that they have to make. Should I take this drug? Should I do this
Right.
procedure? Oh my gosh, what if I pick the wrong diet? So I really want people to be as certain as they can be about things, and that's kind of the underlying, motivation behind this. So excited
Okay.
about it, and hopefully people appreciate it.
Okay. As for my portion, I am going to take it from the approach that these people are brand new to the whole food plant-based style of eating. They may be brand new to cooking completely. So I'm going to walk them through basic equipment, tools, utensils. I'm going to go shopping with them, show them what staples I buy. And then we'll come back here to my office studio kitchen and we'll cook. And I'll show people how to make some of my favorite recipes. So hopefully that's a good foundation for them on the food side of it.
I mean, I have to say that is the key. Having worked with patients for so long now and having such an emphasis on nutrition and diet, it is the most important thing. And for some people, the most challenging part of this is, how do I make this switch over? What are all the nuances?
Hmm.
What if I run into this problem here, that problem there? And that's, I don't have any doubt that eating a fully or at least mostly plant-based diet is the most potent thing, that single intervention that you can do for the health of your vascular system.
I
And
agree.
so I'm so appreciative that you are willing to work with me on this, because it's one thing for me to say, here's a list of stuff to eat. And it's another thing for me to, for people to get like the practical implementation, and most importantly, how to make it taste good. I don't want people feeling like they're up against the rest of their lives eating a bunch of stuff they don't want to eat anyways. I want
Right.
people to feel like, oh my gosh, this is actually pretty darn good. I could keep eating this way, and then it's having the positive effects on the inside of their body also. So, we're the dynamic duo on this one, because it's going to be harder to do it without you. So I'm appreciating you're willing to do that.
All right, Dan. I don't have anything else. Again, I'll put a link to the program down below for anybody that wants to check it out. And unless you have anything else, thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Chuck.
All
Talk to you
right.
soon.